Instead, Cordova, creator of the Leicester equaliser. El Khanous, how much room does he have here? El Khanous going for goal, and he finds it as well. What a turnaround here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
4 minutes, Leicester have soaked up so much pressure. Fatawi jinking feet to get beyond his man, and the header from Jamie Vardy makes it 2.
Wood should score. Wood Cannocott is in. Yes, Anthony Cannocott has done it.
Tielemans lining one up. What a goal! What a brilliant goal by Yuri Tielemans. And the Leicester City fans go absolutely potty.
Ball in behind Damian Vardy. It's 11. It's heaven for Jamie Vardy. Hold the back page. Hold the front page. A Leicester player has smashed the record.
Good evening and welcome back to Blue Tinted Glasses. It is Wednesday night, which means, of course, it's time for Fox's Den. And you already know what we're talking about tonight because it's on the thumbnail, it's on the title, but I'm looking forward to it. Before we get into it, Anil, how are you doing today, mate?
Fantastic. Summer vibes. Pro tip for everyone out there. If you haven't tried it, Nutella ice cream, it's like a party in your mouth and everyone's invited. I was going to have like 2 spoonfuls. I just demolished the entire tub and I regret nothing. Pro tip.
Sorry to let you down here, Anil, but I actually don't like Nutella.
Same, mate. I'm not a big
I think you try that ice cream and you'll change your mind. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Doc, how's it going with you, mate? Is the weather nice over there in sunny Denmark?
It's lovely, mate, but I can't enjoy it. I have 4 or 5 exams I'm working on at the moment. So I've been from 8 a.m. to about 6 p.m. today. I've been grinding away at different exams, programming, information systems, and everything. So it's nice to take a bit of a break, get some food, and I'll talk a bit of Leicester.
Lovely stuff. And Mark, first time on the panel, mate. How you doing today?
Hey, Locks. Hey, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Very excited to be invited. So looking forward to speaking Jeremy Monga, seeing what all the hype's about. And
yeah, 100%. We're going to talk all about it. Lee Chappie's here in the chat. Hello, Locks. Long time no speak. Chuff for the channel. Do so well. Summer vibes is right. P.S. Nutella milkshake is even better. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, I don't mind. Nutella's it's nutty, isn't it? I like Kinder Bueno. So
there's Kinder Bueno ice cream. I haven't tried that yet, but that's next on the demolishment list.
Now we're talking.
I'll say I think the thing is outside of Denmark, it's not really popular. But we eat instead of some still eat Nutella, but we eat a very thin layer of chocolate instead on bread and pastries instead, which is really really good because there's no nuts in that. That's just straight chocolate, to kick off your day.
Lovely stuff. But yeah, I hope you're well, Lee, mate. Same to you as well, Kunal and Peaches. I think 50% of the panel are just wrong. Nutella is basically crap. There we go. Okay, right. We're going to talk about Mr. Jeremy Monga, who is 15 years old. I'm sure you're already aware. If you're not, if you've been under a rock, 15 years old, second youngest Premier League player of all time. It'll be interesting to see where he ranks as youngest Championship players, because obviously that's where he'll be, hopefully, next season. But before we get into the details of what we want to talk about tonight, I want to start, Anil, and I'll just ask you, mate, what have you made to his start as a professional footballer for Leicester, mate? Because we've been really excited every time we've seen him. It's basically the only thing that keeps us going through the watch along. When will we get Monga? But what have you made to his start?
Super exciting. I think first couple of games you couldn't really make an assessment, right? There wasn't much to go from, but I think the last 2 appearances especially, you're starting to see some stuff. And I think, like I say, maybe I've got a bit of a heads up here. So, I've got some badges, and as part of my badges, I've coached that kind of age group. So it's not the same as seeing people on the training ground. But when you're basically seeing him slot in seamlessly to elite men's football at that age, that's absolutely absurd. And the 2 things that have impressed me the most, one, those feet are quick, right? That is something that I feel you've either got or you don't got, and he's got it. And his ability to sort of spin in space, and he's also got acceleration, and it looks like he's got speed on the ball. Like Leo Messi, which is a bit of want to jump at straight away. But there are other players we'll get to. But what I'll say is that he was fast, but he's not the fastest player I've ever seen in my life. But I don't think I've ever seen a player who's faster on the ball, if that makes sense. The ability to control the ball in tight spaces, accelerate, turn inside and out. And you can see he was up against Premier League defenders. Forest, you might not have believed it when we played them on the weekend, but Forest do have a really good defence. Yeah, I know Murillo was out, but Milenkovic is no mug. Morato still played for Benfica and Brazil, and he was twisting and turning them. So look, we don't want to get carried away, but I think it says a lot that he basically, if we're being honest, with Jeremy Monga, maybe one criticism, he probably should have scored. And if he had scored, he would actually have been the youngest Premier League goal scorer in history, despite playing for, I think, the worst Leicester City Premier League side in history. So if that doesn't get you excited, you're obviously not a Nutella ice cream fan, is all I can say. Get on board.
Well, he's got 2 more games to become the youngest.
Exactly.
Scorer. He could still get that. Mark, what have you made to him, mate? Because Anil's mentioned all of the technical things that he's really good at, but I want to say as well the confidence, because 15, still doing his GCSEs, and there's been some content from the club this week on Instagram and a little interview with him, and he said he was nervous, but as soon as he got on that pitch, that went away, and you could kind of tell, as Anil said, he turns a couple of players inside and out. You've got to have the confidence to do that, and he seemed to have it.
Yeah, I think the confidence is not going to be an issue, right? You can see that straight away. Understandably, he's 15 years old. He's a school kid coming on to packed stadiums, Premier League, no less. So that's fine. But like you said, he does his talking on the pitch, right? That's where he's most comfortable. What stood out to me is he didn't look like a deer in headlights. He was, granted, like Anil said, the first couple of games, few minutes here and there, 5-10 minutes. I think he got 30 minutes, not the game before Forest. And then, but his physicality, that was my concern, because you think 15, 16, he looked pretty slight. But that was my main concern. But in the last couple of games, especially against the Forest defender, and he can go either way. And so I think, I know he's out wide, but where he was kind of flitting around the right into the middle. Yeah. But he's got great feet. Like Anil said, he's got speed in abundance. He seems, and again, you don't want to over-egg him. He's 15. We've seen maybe an hour in total of him, early days, but exciting. He's the kind of player you're craving for. The ball goes to him, and you're like, okay, what's going to happen here? He's running at the defense, which is the kind of player we've been craving for, right, since Fatawu not really got it. Mavididi to a certain point. So yeah, super exciting. Let's see where it goes. Hopefully, we get to see him, right, more and more.
100%. Doc, one thing Mark said there, which I can't agree with more, is that a player who, when he gets the ball, you're kind of like off your seat. Oh, what's going to happen here? And Mark's right. The only player really, you could say maybe Facundo after what you saw. If next time you see Facundo on the ball, you're probably thinking, oh, what's going to happen here? But, large parts of the season, Fatawu is the only player at the club who gets the ball, and you have absolute confidence that he's going to at least maybe create a half chance or something like that. Now, I'm not saying Monga's at that level yet where you're absolutely confident something's going to happen, but I think he's the next best thing to Fatawu, for someone who, when he gets the ball, you can expect something, whether it's, a good pass or a bit of skill, beating his man, something like that, running down the wing. He seems to have that excitement about him.
Yeah, he certainly does, right? I think you're maybe doing Mavididi a bit of a disservice there, who, does definitely have some magic in him every now and then, just not consistently enough, especially at the Premier League level. I think, and I mentioned this as well on Monday in Colin's show, but the only real case I can compare it to that I can remember watching, right, it is Rooney Badakti from Copenhagen, because he, when you were allowed to play in Denmark at 16, he had many of the same similarities to Jeremy Monga. The big difference then being, with all due respect to the Danish league, well, it's way lower level than what the Premier League can offer. So to be able to, at a younger age than Rooney Badakti, be able to step into the men's first team at Premier League level and look so confident that you're actually threatening for goals, maybe you could say a bit unlucky not to have scored yet, beat your man, play up to them physically, not just technically as well. That's really impressive. And we know how high Rooney Badaki has been. Sadly, his progression has been set back by a year-long ACL injury. But, I mean, imagine all the praise and words that have got around him for doing that in the Danish league. And then you have now someone younger for Leicester doing that exact same thing in the Premier League. It is unbelievable how elite of a talent you have to be if you can play and look comfortable at Premier League level, aged 15.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Anil, the first time I heard of Jerry Monga's name was Ric Flair.
Yeah.
People will know from Fox's Talk or the Big Strong Leicester Boys podcast. And because I'm not a big Fox's Talk person, I check it every now and then, especially when people start chatting shit about BTG on there. No, I'm joking. But I listen to the Big Strong Leicester Boys podcast every week, and probably a year ago now, Rick mentioned him, and he's saying, "Oh my God, I went to see the under-21s, and he was absolutely magic. Remember his name. And obviously, you hear this a lot, right? You know, we heard it like, for example, Luke Thomas, and going back further, Dewsbury Hall, Harvey. But we've heard it all before. But Jerry Monga is genuinely, I think, rated as like the most exciting prospect to ever come out of the Leicester Academy. Like they are that excited by him. The people who have been watching him and nurturing him for years, they think he's going to surpass all of these players that we've had.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, as you mentioned, Ric Flair, he's one of my favorite people in the sort of Leicester broadcasting community. But let's just say he's got previous, like saying that Tete was going to be the second coming of Pele. And he had a great debut and it fell off, and he said the same thing. So, when he said that, I've heard this many times before. And I think the other one recently is Will Alves, who I'm hoping will still make the grade. But I think, even sort of former superstars like Emil Heskey and Julian Joachim were sort of the ones mentioned when I was a lad, right? And then getting older, you got Harvey Barnes. I think Harvey Barnes is a fair one. He was really highly rated at the academy at the time. And you got to say fair play to Harvey Barnes.
I mean, he did great in the champion, or great in the league too as well. So, like, put some respect on some of the kids' name we've had. Right?
Won the Carabao Cup. He's proving to be well worth that money. A good signing for Newcastle. But Monga is, as you say, the people in the academy have got more hopes of him even than that. Those links are some of the biggest. Like the Man City one is absolutely real. The Real Madrid one, maybe, I don't know, it's possible. I'm not sure if that is or isn't the case. It's something we should look out for. I will just say though, when we get to my section a little bit later though, that he's not the only promising player in the academy, and I think we do forget that. But credit where it's due, this is someone who, and again, I've got one or two friends who are actually in the game at the moment asking about them, and yes, there is a massive buzz around this player in particular. There are some other ones in up and down the country as well, of course, that you hear things from, but this is someone who, yes, is expected to have a very bright future, not just because of how good he is, but also the type of player he is. Like one of those players that can sort of play anywhere across the front three, very dynamic and comfortable with both feet, and can use his left foot. And if you're an Englishman, it's almost like that was always used to be the curse, and no one's got a left foot. So I think already he's very promising.
I was going to say, Mark, with the stupid rules that are in place in England, as we know, a big team could come along and swipe him away at any moment, and then it would go to a tribunal to try and get some money. And I read somewhere, I don't know if it's true, that the Nyoni guy that we lost to Liverpool through a similar situation.
We're going to come to him in a moment, Lux.
We haven't even had the money for him, apparently. We've not even had any money for him yet, and he's been at the academy at Liverpool for, I don't know, 18 months or something. So
yeah, it's been ages.
So for me, Mark, obviously that is a concern. And what I would love to see, of course, the ideal scenario is he goes on to become a superstar at Leicester. He stays at Leicester all his career. He's a captain and he retires at Leicester, right? It's not going to happen. But right. I hope he can stay a year. We're going to talk about this a lot more, but hopefully he can stay for a year, maybe 2 years, get to that certain age where we then can demand a fee. And if he goes somewhere for 50, 60 million in a couple of years' time, then happy days, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, so he can't sign a professional contract until he's 17, right? So if anyone takes him before then, you get the compensation fee, and that's likely to be decided by a tribunal. So who knows? That's probably going to be peanuts, right, in the grand scheme of things of what potentially we could get down the line. So I'm just hoping if we can keep him for 2 years, even if we can get him to 17 and he signs that contract, so then we could get that potential fee. I mean, if we could keep him for 2 years, you think given what he is already looking now, granted, again, I don't want to overhype it, but in the few minutes we've seen. But I would just hope that his advisors, his agent, his parents, he's come out and said, I saw an article I read earlier. He's saying he just wants to now start more games, score goals. As we just said, do his talking on the pitch, right? That's what he wants to do. He goes to Man City, that ain't happening. He's going to see, 30 minutes an hour, probably the whole season, maybe get a couple of substitute appearances in the early rounds of the Carabao Cup. What a waste, So I'm hoping his advisors are thinking the same. He's aligned with his advisors that okay, look, it's in your best interests. Stick around at Leicester. Championship next season, it's clear already you're going to get minutes. You're going to be a bigger fish at Leicester than, little tadpole at Man City, right? So you're going to get minutes. The championship season's a marathon, as we all know. So he's going to get so much opportunity to show his worth. And then who knows? He may then get it'd be more established to show what he's got in the Premier League. And then at that point, after that, he's going to be 17. Get him signed up, 5-year deal, and then, who knows after that? We get a nice fee for him. We're not, long term, I agree. We're not going to keep him, not a chance. Obviously, we know that. But if we can get 2 seasons out of him, I think we'll have done well.
Yeah, 100%. Doc, I'll come to you in a minute. But first of all, obviously, here is the blue tinted glaze. Now, just for some context, the reason we've called it this is because those who watch the stream every day will know we joked about it the other day, but one Friday night, I think it was a Friday, it might have even been midweek or something, we stumbled across a TikTok live that Jeremy Monga was on with his friends who also play for other clubs across the country. Chelsea, I think a couple of them are at, and we were doing a bit of glazing in there. We were telling Jeremy how great he is.
Let's rephrase this. You were at, for me, 1 a.m. in the middle of the night, sitting there glazing a 15-year-old in a TikTok live. I do not want to associate it with that, and I'm only 21. So just so you know that was all Lux.
The things Lux does for Leicester City, put some respect on this man's name.
Exactly, man. Exactly. I was trying to, even if I contribute 0.0001% of him staying, I was on it. So anyway, Anil, take it away, mate, with this. Take it away.
Absolutely. Well, this is an interactive session. So it's for everyone on the panel and for chat. I think we'll have some fun here. But there was a lot of talking points. And look, we are Leicester City fans. So obviously, we want all of our young stars to stay. But I think one thing that I take pride on at Blue Tinted Glasses is we do try and be professional, right? So we are actually going to look at some pros and some cons, because there are definitely some negative things around Leicester City, but why ultimately we think staying at Leicester is the best decision for any of the young academy players coming through. So, of course, that means Jeremy Monga. I'm going to come to him in a moment. But as I said, there's someone else that I wanted to mention. There's many actually promising talents in the academy, but I also want to give a shout out to this lad too, Jake Evans, who did manage to get a couple of starts, and he didn't just get 10 seconds. He got a bit more last time round. And especially with Jake Evans, just in case you didn't know this, but here are his stats this season. You can see that he started playing for the under 18s team, 2 goals from 3 games. And look at this, in Premier League 2, he's actually in the top 3 goal scorers with 10 goals from 14 games. This is really, really impressive. And just in case you didn't know that, if you compare this to Jeremy Monga, it's actually considerably better. Now, he is 2 years older, right? But what I'm saying is that Jake Evans is also an extremely promising player. And sometimes, cast your mind back to the 15-16 season, our star signing in 15-16 was Gökhan Inler, who came to the club. But a little Frenchman turned up the same season called N'Golo Kante, and it turned out that the silver medalist was also a good signing. So look, we want to glaze both these players, and not just easy. There's many more in the youth academy that has also come there. So I just wanted to kind of give you that tip. So anyway, first with the first game that we're going to play. This was the Euro 2024 squad, the England squad. And I've got a question for you. How many of these players did not or have not played in the championship? So here's your list of all the players. Get them in there. How many of these people, get through, have never played in the championship, excluding obviously the manager? I think Gareth Southgate has actually technically, he's managed in the championship at least. Don't all come at me at once.
Gordon, right? He came through Everton's academy.
Who's that?
Is it Anthony Gordon? Because he came through Everton's academy, right? So they wouldn't have been in the championship. Or no?
Good one. We'll see.
I know Trent never played, so there's one.
Correct.
Trent definitely never
Trent
played
did,
in the
Yeah.
championship.
Yeah.
Pickford
But I
would have been
assume
for
most of them,
Sunderland.
right, have had loaned, right? Even take a look at Harry Kane. He had a little loan to mighty old Leicester, So
He did.
despite coming through the Tottenham academy, he's played a fair few championship minutes.
Kobe Mainu, he didn't play. in the
2. That's correct.
Phil Foden never played in the championship.
Correct.
Cole
Saka and Luke Shaw.
Very good. Yeah, so speed it up. So you basically got the gist of it. So here are the ones that I could think of. There might be some ones that I didn't get, but yeah, Cole Palmer, Trent Alexander, Kobe Mainu, Saka, Declan Rice, Phil Foden. These players to be fair, they went straight into the first team, whatever club. But my point is, I might have got 1 or 2 more wrong, but look at how many players did actually play in the championship. So my point is even though we're going to be in the championship, ironically,
yourself a disservice, Anil. Conor Gallagher did. Is Conor Gallagher crossed out? He did play in the championship.
He did. Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of them that surprised me that did actually play in the championship. And as you say, as it stands, Harry Kane has scored more goals than a lot of players that actually play for Leicester, even though he hasn't played for them. So that's pretty interesting. So that's argument number 1. But now I wanted to go to some other ones, right? And I want to show you some players who maybe chose the other option. They were promising players for Leicester, but they decided that Leicester weren't good enough for them, that they would try their hands at some other clubs. So this guy, he actually played twice for us, Sidney Tavares. You might remember one of the games during COVID, he almost scored an outrageous goal. He actually played pretty well in this game. He even got a big up from Brendan, but he decided to leave. So where do you think Sidney Tavares went after leaving Leicester, after not signing the contract?
I can't remember hearing that name.
I know exactly where he went.
Where did he go?
Well, he went to Benfica, right?
Yeah,
close, but similar vibe, but different city.
No, I don't know the club. I know he'd gone to Portugal. I'm pretty sure he went to Portugal, but Lisbon, or I don't know.
Sean is on the money. Sean James pub quiz champion is what I'm guessing here.
But Anil, one thing I do know about this guy I've just jumped ahead. He's done absolutely nothing. He's done nothing.
So you could almost say, Locks, that leaving Leicester City is probably the worst decision he's ever made. So here we can see he went to Porto. Now, fair play, Porto's a great team. Won the Champions League, won many competitions, but he never played for the senior team. He only played for the B team. As such, he was loaned out to the US to play for Colorado Rapids, only made 5 appearances there. Now he's back in Portugal and he's playing for this team that I can't pronounce. It's sort of a semi-decent team, but I'm not even sure they're in the top league. They might be in the top league. I think they're actually in the second one. So that's Sidney Tavares. And who's to say? If he'd have stuck with the club, given the championship ups and downs that we had, he may well have got some games. So, and look at his international career. You can see it stalled as well. Played for the under-19s and nothing since then. Hasn't been able to move up. So that's him there. Right. Now let's talk about the opposite. Like I said, we want to be impartial and look at it either way. So here's Trainer Ernie. Now, you might not know this guy, but he did actually appear in the Leicester City shirt, right? But he went, as Locks mentioned, he went over to Liverpool. How's it gone for him at Liverpool?
He's gotten a few cup appearances, I remember, right?
He has.
I did see about him playing, and I saw some Liverpool fans saying, "Oh yeah, their academy graduate played or whatever." And I mean, that did kind of disappoint me a little bit because he's definitely not their academy graduate.
So here you can see this is actually for him now at Liverpool, and he has actually played a couple of times in the FA Cup. To be fair to him, he played 26 minutes in the Champions League, so that's impressive. But generally speaking, you can see he's basically been playing in the Premier League 2 for Liverpool. So he's probably going to get more appearances next time round. But I think, to be fair to him, and I found this shot, here's him next to Virgil van Dijk. So, you did mention that the club didn't have such a great plan for him compared to what Leicester did. And I think this is one that got away because I think given that he plays, I believe, as an attacking midfielder, he's probably the sort of player that would fit the bill for what we need right now.
Well, let me comment on that, Anil, because this is one of my concerns with the likes of Monga and Jake Evans. So I've said it many times on this channel before, but I will say it again. Apparently, what happened with this guy is he met with Leicester you know, the people at the top of Leicester, I will assume John Rudkin. It might not have been him, so apologies. But he met with Leicester. He met with Liverpool. When he met with Leicester, all they wanted to talk about was money. This is what we're going to give you, Trey. This is the money we'll give you. This is what we'll pay you in year 1, year 2, blah blah. When he went to Liverpool, of course they discussed money, but they discussed a development plan, a plan, a path to the first team, you know, and he chose Liverpool. Now, that's not to say he would have chosen Leicester if we did something similar. He probably still would have gone to Liverpool. Who knows? But the fact is that from what I've heard from a reliable source, you know, we just talked money. We tried to throw money at him to try and stay, and he went, "Nah, I'm all right," and went to Liverpool. And my concern is that, you know, the approach that we have with the likes of Monga and Evans might be similar. And if that is the case, especially because we've said Monga seems to be a wise head, you know, on young shoulders, and you know, if he is as wise as Trey, you know, he might choose a Liverpool or a Man City if they give him a plan and we don't. So
that is possible, but I would say that he's still not actually played in the Premier League. So,
Yeah.
And they've already won the league, by the way, so they could have given his debut. So far, both Jeremy Monga and Jake Evans have got more Premier League minutes than Trey Naoni, even though he's kind of left. So that's what I would kind of throw out there. And in fact, doing all of my research, I've basically, you know, seen that it's basically never does a young player, when they leave a club, go straight into the first team and start playing right away. In fact, all throughout Premier League history. But I will say, so here's another game. I did find one player who came from, I'll give you a clue, it wasn't maybe necessarily from England, but as a young talent, came straight to the Premier League and started playing right away and played over 30 times and made quite the impact. So, pop quiz, who can guess who that player was?
Are you thinking of like Ronaldo or something back in the day for
Could be, but he actually came over when he was 17. So this particular player was playing in the Premier League at 16 years old. Good guess, but it's not Robin van Persie. I would say that
No.
Boom!
Oh,
it
done
is.
it. Fabregas.
Okay.
It's Cesc Fabregas. Look at this mullet that he had back in the day. So Cesc Fabregas, what a player. Here are his stats. In his first season, he made 33 appearances for Arsenal at the time. Unbelievable. That's Wenger. He really trusted the youth. So what I guess I'm saying is if Wenger was around or there was someone as mad as that would give you the case. There you go. I will say that Fabregas actually signed at the same time as another Spanish player. I forget his name. He was an attacking midfielder, and that player did get some appearances, but never had the career that Fabregas did. So there you go. Anyway, I thought that might be fun. But now I'll kind of move on more, I think, to some other things that I think are worth talking about. So here's another thing about why I think it's good to sign for Leicester City. So what do all of these players have in common?
They all make hissing noises like a snake. No,
There's definitely one or two on here that do that. There's one that likes to sleep in airports on transfer deadline day. There's one that likes to
go on strike. Yeah,
exactly. And there's one that's got a rather large head shaped like a kitchen utensil or kitchen unit. But what I will say is that Leicester, to be fair, right, they don't really stand in the way of players when they want their move. Maybe Mahrez, you could say that we did for a little bit, but eventually we did get his move when the money was right. All of the other players, Fofana absolutely kicks up a stink, but that's a good record. So look, I guess I'm being realistic. I'd like to think that all the players coming through the academy, they have a soft spot for Leicester. They'd want to play for them. Like I think all of us as fans in our FIFA career games, we're just sticking with Leicester the whole way through. But like, if you do get offered the 300 grand a week or something absolutely outrageous, even if it's to Al Nassr FC to replace Ronaldo, whatever, Leicester City aren't going to stand in the way. And I think that is good because say Naoni, when he goes to Liverpool, who's to say, right? You know, if a move like that would appear, if they would allow him to go or not. Or look what happened to Trent when he's leaving to go now to Real Madrid. They're even booing their own player. So that's kind of thing.
And you see, like with Man City, for example, like with Cole Palmer, you know, these big clubs now as well, they're not afraid to sell either. Yeah. Like, you know, someone like it wouldn't surprise me if someone like Kobe Mainu, you know, if he gets moved on, if he gets sold on in the next year or two. And, you know, you sort of Cole Palmer, which I'm sure Man City is slightly regretting a little bit. But, you know, for a Trey Naoni or someone like that, you know, Liverpool know that they've paid peanuts for him, if anything. And he might get a few games here and there, but a club might come in for him and give them 30, 40 million, for him at some time. And it's pure profit, really. So,
we get utilized like Michael Golding at our club at the moment in Chelsea. That's, sort of the desperate. Yeah, maybe that's part of our plan. We would say this. Okay, so what do these 4 players all have in common?
Go on, I'll let Marco.
Where's Gray even now? Where's he even playing now?
He's playing. Last time I heard was in Saudi with Steven Gerrard, but hasn't Gerrard been sacked there? So
my guess, he'd follow the money. Yeah.
Championship loans. No, yeah.
Well, I think the clues is the shirt that they're wearing.
International. They've played for England.
Little old Leicester.
Ray played for England. Really?
There's the photographic proof. I mean, his expression says what everyone was thinking.
That's got to be on the 21s. That's got to be.
No, he played for the senior team. So did JJ.
I knew about the JJ one, but I thought for sure that was a U21 picture. Demarai Gray playing for England. You guys were in the mud.
Crazy.
That was when we had some of the friendlies were being hosted around the country, and there was a friendly hosted at the King Power. So for that reason, they gave a few Leicester players their caps.
So it's a token international cap.
You could say so, but he still got it. And at the end of the day, there you go. So that's proof that, again, young players, I mean, what happens to them afterwards is up to you, but we have got a record of capping. Because remember, there was definitely a time where if you weren't playing for the top 4 clubs in England, you wouldn't get capped for England, right? That was especially true in the Sven Göran Eriksson era. But these days, if you're good enough, you will be selected, and that's another plus point. And we've actually got, I think, a much better record of it than many other teams. I think we punched above our weight for quite a long time in that respect. So that's pretty good. Next point I wanted to say where I think it would be good for the young players. Now, this obviously is rather sad because at the end of this season, the legend, the GOAT, is leaving. And that is sad. But you know what that means? That means that there's an opportunity for a new GOAT. We're going to have one statue, but I like many statues. Why does there just have to be one? So honestly, I would say this, that we as a club, I think one of the sad things about Vardy leaving is that it's definitely the end of an era, right? And it was the best era. And it's a shame that it's ended the way that it does. And I feel sorry for him. Like, if we're being honest, JV should not have had to have been starting for the club for about 3 seasons now, right? But he's so good that he's literally defeated like £100 million worth of like Slimani, Cannon, Iheanacho, Daka. I'm pretty sure that's 100 million all in. And none of them could displace Jamie Vardy. And even now, you'd probably say he's the best striker, right? But that means that the time is right for a new hero. Maybe it could be Fatawu, maybe it could be someone else, but it could be Jeremy Monga, could be Jake Evans, could be Henry Cartwright, could be Logan Briggs, could be many of the players that are coming through. We do indeed. So maybe I should be careful about me wanting statues. But there you go. So that's another reason. So I think that I'm at you, but for me, I think it would be great if a lot of the players who have come from the academy and have got an affinity for the club did stay with us.
I was going to say, I'll ask Duck and Mark, but I'll come to you first, Duck. Obviously, Anil's jumping ahead 15 years talking about statues to Jerry Monga, but he is right in the sense that there's now a gap of I suppose, an icon, a fan favourite. Do you know what I mean? Someone that everyone gets behind, because they do with Vardy. And I feel like there's now a space for, to be filled there. And Jeremy Monga, with Vardy no longer at the club, that's one less icon to talk about. And Monga could grow into something. Of course, I think we all know that even if he stays, he will go in the future. But we can put our blue tinted glasses on and say there's a space there for Monga to become the icon at Leicester.
I mean, the icon and everything else, right? That'll be taken in due time as years progress. But I think even if, let's just say, Monga and Evans, they stay for 2 and 3 more seasons, help rebuild us up into the Premier League again and left us a stable Premier League club and then left for a good fee. I mean, they would be remembered. They would always have a home. They would always be welcome at King Power. And I mean, someone like Harvey Barnes is still fondly thought of in the Leicester community, right? Did a great job for us throughout the few years. One of the only people really making a positive impact in our first relegation season, being our top scorer that year. And I mean, he left. He recouped us a big amount of money, and scored against us. And some people even clapped at him. I think just 2-3 years, you can write yourself in the history books. You might not write yourself as a headline, but you'll write yourself a few pages in the Leicester history, and that will forever be remembered, right? And I think that's the beauty of your own academy players, because we all want them to succeed right here.
I mean, Mark, Anil's put a comment here about Harvey Barnes was applauded when he scored against us recently. Obviously, a part of that was because I think the way he left the football club was, well, yeah, and he was if you remember, back to two summer transfer windows ago when he left, like he was waiting around for a while, and it almost felt like a bit of a Dewsbury Hall situation where he kind of had to go for PSR and all of that. But I hate the argument that we had earlier in the season, Mark, about why bring a 15-year-old into this toxic environment? I don't see it that way. I mean, look at us. We're sat here dedicating a show to a 15-year-old. For me, we will get behind someone like that, like we got behind Harvey Barnes, and like some people are still getting. I mean, Mark, I hate it. I hate seeing some of our ex-players scoring on the TV. Yuri Tielemans, Maddison, Mahrez. I used to hate it. But when I see Harvey Barnes score, I'm like, oh, yes, nice one. So I feel like Monga could have something similar there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the thing with Leicester fans. We always know, well, with all fans, right? We're a fickle bunch, but
yeah,
and it's all driven by how a player leaves the club, right? Again, what circumstances have they left under? Were they forced out, or did they just think the grass is greener? Oh, I'm out of here. See you. No loyalty. They say no loyalty in football, but so that goes a long way, and then you instantly gain that respect for the player and then when they return, like Barnes. He could have gone, running and celebrating, but he kind of embarrassed and putting his head down, and so that then draws that respect from the Leicester fans. But yeah, getting back to Monga, I think you're right. The path is so laid out for him. One door closes with Vardy, and then one opens. And again, not just for Monga, for Evans. I mean, I really hope. I really like Evans. I've not seen that much of him, but I don't know. There's a player there. I know there's talk of Spurs trying to get him for 16 million. Yeah. I mean, but if we can keep hold of him and all the others. So yeah, the pathway's there for him. I just, again, going back to what I was earlier saying about, I just hope he's being advised correctly, because a lot of these youngsters, it's probably not their decision, it's been what they're told, right? 15 years old, are you streetwise enough to make the right decisions? Truly what is best for you, as opposed to, okay,
I tell you what, Mark, he's listening to blue tinted glasses right now, and he's taking notes.
Yeah, send this on to him. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But no, Mark's right, isn't he, Anil, about how you're advised as well? Because how many times over the past have we seen players who were so highly rated, so promising, and being misadvised, the mentality not being right. Yeah, some of these youngsters through their career, I mean, the most spoken about ones, I think, like Ravel Morrison at Man United, where if you ask the likes of Rooney, Cristiano, Rio Ferdinand, they will all say Ravel was one of the best youngsters they've ever seen, and look what happened to him. I think Balotelli as well was very, very highly rated.
That's the one I know about.
Yeah, so this is what I'm saying. So it's very important, Anil, that he is, advised correctly, and hopefully, the club as well, are doing everything they can to kind of lead him on the right path.
I agree, and that's why I brought up this pitch, which I think is another plus point. I mean, obviously, he's lucky to already be using these facilities, but there's not many facilities in Europe, yet alone England, that can match Seagrave, state-of-the-art facilities. And I think that shows you a lot, that even though we were at the time a sort of mid-table club, now we've actually fallen a little bit, but we still have these facilities. And that shows that the club is serious about developing talent. And if you're going to be able to play both in the first team and facilities like this, week in, week out, that is the sign of a good club that I think is going to develop you. And you're right, because the thing is there's so many players. Like, I don't know about you, we love Football Manager here, right? And when we go to Football Manager, every update, it's who's the wonder kid, sign all the wonder kids. But how many of these wonder kids actually turn out to be the real deal? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, right? And for every wonder kid that does make it, there's plenty that don't. Yeah. So you never know. You might have a middling career, you might have a super career, you might have somewhere in the middle. Again, going back to sort of Leicester City players of old, Julian Joachim was really highly rated. I think he had an okay career, but I think he'll probably admit that he maybe underperformed what he was capable of. Emil Heskey, I think he had a solid career. I think he'd probably take what he had in the end. He was very good for Leicester, went to Liverpool, had a really good first season there where he had one goal in every 2 games. Then it sort of fell off a little bit, but he won lots of trophies. I think he'd probably be proud he did the most of it. But for every player like that, there's many players that don't make it, right? And we've seen it even in, do you remember when Jeffrey Schlupp, I think he scored a hat-trick on his debut or something like that, didn't he, for Leicester? And he's on some sort of middling career. So you've got to look after yourself, do what you're told. And that's why I think, again, they're just getting stuck in the under 21s, under 23s setup at a bigger club is actually not the good thing to do. I think really the biggest difference between the players who make it and the players that don't is that mental attitude and being able to take your chance when you've been given it. So far, I think he's done a good job of that. But, you know, keep it going, get that football under your belt, and you'll become a better player overall.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Doc, you know, we always talk about Seagrave. You know, there's sometimes cons to it when we speak about Seagrave with maybe the older players and how they're treated. But, you know, there's no doubt, Doc, that with the younger players, this is what they need. You know, they need something like this. You know, the best facilities, it's only going to help their development.
I mean, I don't think a single club beats the training facilities we have, right? There are clubs that can match it, and new clubs are building similar, and more will be getting this. But yeah, I think obviously it's nice to have. I think what Anil said before as well is the fact that you're able to take the chance when you've been given it and get yourself out of the U18s, U21s as young as possible. That's a sign of a really good talent. And Jeremy Monga, that door has been opened. Same for Jake Evans now, Michael Golding. I don't want to say it's been open, but maybe he can see some light through the keyhole there as well, right? So if the manager remains or the new manager comes in and says he'll continue that development, I think that should make a very good case why he should be here, because any 16 or 15-year-old would be happy to play championship week in, week out, because that would boost their development so much more than spending a season or 2 at Man City's training ground playing for the U18s, U21s.
What do you think, Mark? Because, you know, again, talking about the small percentages, like if you're Jeremy Monga, for example, and you get, you know, asked to go to another club to look around, of course, you know, some of these big clubs have got impressive facilities, but knowing that this is what you have at Leicester City, it might go a little bit of a way to keeping him around.
Yeah, it has to, surely. I mean, look at it. Just looking at that picture that Anil showed is one of the best in Europe, right? If not the best. Well, not the best, but you've seen Real Madrid's facilities, but it's up there, right? We know that, and especially in England. He would have been around Beaver Drive. I don't know. Maybe that was before his time, but I don't know. So I don't know if this is all his time,
probably.
Yeah, so this is probably all he knows, right? So, yeah, I mean, he's. Kids coming up with these facilities, it has to be go in our favour. I mean, I just don't see if they. Hopefully, again, it goes back to me saying, how are they being advised? You know, it's this is one of the bonuses.
Let's move on. So look, I think in the spirit of fairness, although we have said it here, do any of these other clubs have a fan channel like Blue Tinted Glasses? I don't think so.
Yeah, is it a Man City fans doing a 1 hour? You know, if you're watching Jeremy, do you see Man City doing a 1 hour thingy for you? No, I don't think so.
Or sitting there watching you on TikTok live with your mates at 1 a.m. just typing the chat, glazing you like Lux did.
There was actually one Man City fan in there saying "Come to City." I was like,
Come on.
Should have blocked him. Should have banned him. Get him out of there.
All right, so that's all the pro points, but we will look at some of the things that aren't going that well at the moment at Leicester. Let's just be fair.
A picture of John Rodkin?
It's funny you should mention that, but that's not number one. So number one, and that's the reason why I brought up this manager situation at Norwich, is the fact that Ruud hasn't done a particularly good job. Now, to be fair, Van Nistelrooy still gave him his debut, although I think a lot of us think he might have been forced into that rather than actually doing it had we not been relegated. And for what it's worth, I do think it's outrageous. I think even after we got relegated, he wasn't even in the next game. I also think that Ruud bottled it against Man United in the FA Cup when he was first selected on the bench. And I know that they beat us with that really dodgy goal in injury time, but I think he should have put on Monga, you know, because it looked like the game was going to extra time anyway. So I think he kind of pulled out for us. So that's true. But I think the reality is that probably Ruud isn't going to be here next season, and most likely the club hopefully will bring in a manager who does work with young players, which is why we don't want Sean Dyche. But let's see what happens.
Maybe
Could be.
Second Norwich manager. I've said it 5 times now, but regardless, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, point number 2, as you're a psychic, I did bring these 2 up. Now, look, he probably interacts with these guys on a regular basis, but let's just say that at the moment, at Blue Tinted Glasses, we're less than pleased with what these 2 are doing. We're going to be doing the show in the off season, saying, ban that. Leicester fan TV are better.
No, he's joking.
Okay, I was going to say insta ban for that. But yeah, I was going to say this, that with these 2, look, we're going to be doing the show in the off season when we're going to talk about how to fix Leicester. And I do think that changes, they don't necessarily have to have changes at the top, but they've got to have better infrastructure in terms of the personnel that are doing it and having a good plan. And again, that example you mentioned of Trey Naoni, I think is a really good one, because I have to say, from what I've seen of him, he does look like a really good player. I can see why Liverpool took him. So look, just calling it what it's like, we do want there to be changes. And currently, 2 relegations in 3 years is not really the sign of a club who's got his act together, right? So that's a criticism from the fans, from everyone. And, we have to call it out for what it is. Next one, got to call a spade a spade. We're not in the Premier League anymore. We are currently a Premier League team. We're not going to be a Premier League team next season. We're going to be in the Championship. Now, that's why I showed you the point of having to actually make your debut in English football. I actually think the Championship's a great league to do it in. I think especially if you're a young player, look, it's like playing Sunday League football. Sometimes actually getting the beep kicked out of you is kind of important. I actually think, I don't know about you, but for me, Abdul Fatawu, one of the things that impressed me the most when we were in the Championship is, believe it or not, he was the most fouled player, even more fouled than Crescencio Somerville, even though he didn't play as many games. And it's because he was beating men for fun. And you could see pretty much every game that Fatawu was playing, by the 60th or 70th minute, the defender he was up against, because he was getting so frustrated, they're getting beaten every time, that they just started hacking lumps out of him. But you could see that he rode with it. He developed into a player. And I think for Towell, it was noticeable that the goals started coming towards the end of the season, where he kind of really, really clipped. So look, it is a negative. I think if you were a young player and you had the opportunities to play week in, week out in the Premier League, that would be better than playing in the Championship. But I think if you're 15 going on 16, you're probably going to be playing more in this kind of, you would probably be sent out on loan anyway. So there you go. So that's what it is. So that's like the pros and the cons. But then my final sort of thing that I wanted to say about Jeremy Monga as well is actually to maybe offer some advice as well, right? Because he's doing really well. It'll be interesting to see what type of player he's got. But right now, who would you say is the most exciting young player in world football? And there's a short list of one, let's be honest. But I'll ask the panel, who's the most, other than Jeremy Monga and Jake Evans, of course, and Henry Cartwright, who's the most exciting young player in world football, would you say?
Mao, isn't it?
Yeah, it has to
be. Boom!
That's
That's why he's on the show. Straight in, Mark, number one. Of course.
The 16-year-old that won the Euros and is
crazy.
probably going to be top 3 Ballon d'Or at 17.
He is unbelievable, man.
Ridiculous, isn't he? Yeah.
Wow.
It is ridiculous. But this is one that I wanted to show with his stats. And for me, actually, this is one of the reasons why I think he's so good. It's the fact that he has more assists than he has goals. And normally, when you have a young player who's breaking through, they want to show the world. They've got that kind of arrogance, a bit of cockiness. Understandable, right? You don't know what pressure is at that age. You're just having a kickabout and getting paid for it, right? But the thing with Yamal that is so amazing is that his decision-making is ridiculous. I actually don't understand. He's basically completed football before even learning about football. It's like, what the hell? He's loaded up into FIFA with an account that's already got like 150 grand of gold and epic players ready to go.
YouTubers who just spend so much money on FIFA points at the start of the year.
Yeah, but you watch him play and it's his decision making that is amazing. I was going to show you some clips. Maybe I'll do it the next time we do it. But Monga, when he was playing against Forest, he was really good. But I think if you're being critical, he could actually have got a goal and an assist in the time that he was on there, if maybe he made the right decision. So that's more of a, that will come in time. Although I do think that is going to be the difference between if you actually make it right to the very top level or not. Like Cole
Yeah.
Palmer's an interesting one, right? I think if you were to look at his school grades, I've got a feeling that they might not be the best. So I'm throwing some serious shade on him here, but you can probably understand where I'm coming from. But in terms of football IQ, absolutely unbelievable, right? He makes the right decision at the right time. So that's when you go. So that's it. That's it for the blue tinted glazing. But yeah, that's why we all want, and I think for us as well, I'll just finally say this, like why are a bunch of grown men glazing our young players? But there's a few things, right? And for me, the club does feel kind of broken right now. And I think the thing that is most broken is that we've got players there who they don't think have a connection with the fans, and I don't think they really care for the club. They're here to pick up a paycheck. So for me, the way that I actually see Leicester being fixed for the next kind of 3 or 4 years is by bringing in young talent. And I'll say that, like, I think Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall was a great example, not because the fact we sold him, that made me sad, but because when we got relegated, I remember he did an interview and he said, last season wasn't good enough. And my aim is I want to be the best player in the championship and bring Leicester straight back up. And he was the best player in the championship. I know for some arbitrary reason
it was insane he didn't win that award, man.
It was because it's not like Somerville wasn't a good player. But I mean, a blind man, Stevie Wonder could see that Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall was the best player in that division, right? So it's just how it is. So that's why for me it is important. And yeah, a lot of us have said that we would be excited if, like, look how many people here have put in chat saying, oh, imagine if we had the front line of Monga, Fatawu, Mavadidi, Jake Evans coming off the bench, Will Alves coming on, Casey McAteer, Ben Nelson at the back, Jakub Stolarczyk. Like, that actually does make me excited because that's going to have players that I think
lost
would
you
care
at
about
Casey.
Well, maybe you're harsh, but I think he's a good player, right?
Yeah,
especially at that level. Anyway, over to the panel. But sign the contract.
Well, Mark, let me ask you this, mate, because I think, look, Zach saying it, we shouldn't compare Monga to Yamal. We're not saying Monga is as good as Yamal, but you know, it's relative, right? We'll be a team in the championship, but I think the point we're trying to make here, Mark, is that, you know, if you, we keep saying it, we've said it so many times recently, but if you're good enough, you're old enough, and if you have somebody who can positively impact the first team, who's going to outperform somebody, Jordan Ayew, in the first team, then you may as well give him his chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the thing about how I'm seeing it next season is, I know, Anna, in that presentation, you put EFL can be one of the bad points. And yeah, I get what you say in terms of maybe being a more attractive option than the Premier League, or, you know, vice versa. But for his progression, I keep going back to his progression, the Championship is a perfect progression for him. At his age, you know, similar to other players, like, you know, Dewsbury-Hall was older, but he was loaned out to Luton, right, for that season. He did wonders there, you know, and that, what, you know, a season in the Championship, you grow as a player, but your physicality as well, because like I say, there's some brutes in that Championship, right? They're going to come hard at him, you know, let him know that it's going to be a rude awakening, but yeah, that, with those youngsters in the team, if we can get them in the team next season, that's how we're going to bridge that gap between the connection. Right now, it's broken. You know, the connection between the club and the supporters and the players. That's going to help bridge that gap, because who doesn't want to see a local lad, you know, come through academy and, you know, score goals or create goals or get you off your seat for your home club? I mean, that excites me. You know, it's been a horrendous season. You know, they've stunk the place out. So I just want this season to end. Vardy get his 200th goal. Monga get a couple more minutes. Maybe Evans and Golding, and, you know, let's get going the next season. You know, get some positivity in it.
100%. I mean, Doc, you know, one thing that Mark and Anil spoke about there, Dewsbury-Hall, you know, a player that was relegated, he stuck around, he lit the league alight, and he got a move, right? And, you know, just to name a few others, they weren't under the same circumstances, they weren't relegated, but Eze, Michael Elise, James Maddison, Jared Bowen, Harvey Elliott, Morgan Gibbs-White, Buendia. You know, these obviously maybe not Buendia, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? These are players that you know that were playing in the Championship, lit the league alight and got their move. And I'm not saying that Monga's going to light it, you know, on fire next season and you know, get 15 goals and assists and all of this stuff. But, you know, looking in the steps of Dewsbury-Hall, what he did so recently, They were relegated. He played a lot of games. He was incredible. And you either get promoted and he sticks around for Leicester in the Premier League, or he gets a move.
Yeah, I mean, it is very realistic, right? I think we have many youngsters who are about, ready to take the step up. Some, you could say, prematurely in Jeremy Monga and Jake Evans, because they are in no rush to take the step up. They're simply so good. But you've got your Ben Nelson as well, right? Will Elvis. I think Casey McAteer, if he is really the one, in the way you're describing it, I would look at it and say you have to do what Dewsbury Hall did, because he's an academy graduate who now has a few years of senior football under his belt. You wouldn't be expecting the pressure Dewsbury Hall put on himself to be put on anyone from the academy, except for maybe Casey McAteer, who I think does have reason to maybe have that confidence in himself, knowing that he did actually start the championship season last time very well and was mainly just ruined due to injuries and then not getting enough game time because Fatawa was, one of the best wingers in the whole league. So we'll see what happens. I think regardless, though, for every single fan out there, you'll get some of your club back when you see the youth play, right? You can see yourself, you can identify with them because you know what they put out there for the shirt. And that doesn't matter if you're Jeremy Monga, if you're Ben Nelson, or if you're Jakub Stelasic. We all can see ourselves and see the pride in the club again when you watch your own academy graduates go out and perform. And that's what I really want, because it feels like you kind of have to reconcile with the club after, these tough years where there's been so much going against you, and to kind of unify with them as well, to cheer for that upcoming talent, regardless of how many changes are made in the boardroom, hopefully, right? Or whatever happens with the manager, if it's Sean Dyche or someone random they pick off the street, or many, I don't know, regardless of who will be in charge next season or whatever happens, we all know we'll be cheering for our academy graduates to help try and bring us back up.
And we talk about, we want to go back to the Leicester model of old, and people, when we say that, think, getting hidden gems and selling them on. But it's not just that. Look at Harvey Barnes, Dewsbury Hall, Ben Chilwell. Young players that came through who cemented themselves in professional football and got a big move. And we don't know who Monga supports. He's probably not a Leicester fan. I mean, I know for sure that Dewsbury Hall isn't a Leicester fan. He's a Man United fan. Just for anybody if they didn't know that, Dewsbury Hall is a Man United fan. But he will, of course, feel very strongly about the club because he's been there, I'm guessing pretty much all his life. And I think he started at Coventry, actually, I read, Jeremy Monga, but yeah, he's been at Leicester for a couple of years now, and we've given him a chance, and now we're giving him a chance in the Premier. Coventry couldn't have given him a chance in the Premier League. They're never there, are they? So yeah, I'd hope that he does want to repay a bit of faith there that we've shown him, but yeah, I don't know, Anil. Yeah, that what I'm trying to say, Anil, is that the Leicester of old, the model that we want to return to, isn't just finding these cheap players and selling them on. It's also the academy. Utilize that academy, because it seems like we're currently in, I'm going to use this loosely, a golden generation of youngsters at Leicester.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, yeah, I think the thing about trying to scout young talents from abroad and bring them over, whilst that can definitely work, you're always going to have a sort of lower success rate, I think, because the thing with the academy is that because you're going to be working with those players for like 5-6 years before they're ready, you should have a good idea when you've got good ones, and you can help them develop as people. You can always make sure that even if they don't make it, they have something about them. Because I think whilst I think you got more upside when you sign this exciting South American talent that no one's heard of, that's also how you can end up with a Zambian striker that doesn't do the good. So, it can work either way. So I think it is, I think if you look at all of the top clubs in the world having a great, I mean, look at Barcelona. I don't know how they do it, but every single time they seem to screw themselves up financially. They literally just Jesus out 3 wonder kids, and they're even better than the ones before. Like that picture actually of Messi bathing Lamine Yamal as a kid is just like, these guys are cheating. They've figured out the code, because it's not just that. It's like when you see like Gavi as well, it's like he's just an Iniesta regen. How do they do it? Unbelievable. But I say, how do they do it? They do it because they have literally probably the best, training academy in the world. They teach those players how to play that style from an early age. So, but they are ready when they're 17 or 18, because they're used to playing every single day with like people trying to get the ball off them. So they got this amazing, exquisite control and can do all this amazing stuff.
I mean, there's a comment here, Mark. just quickly, we'll go around and finish on this question. Costa said, youngsters from abroad doesn't work. They don't dream to play for Leicester, so they'll always want to leave. But this isn't true. It works because they don't support Leicester. And what I mean by that is, yes, somebody coming from abroad wants to play for Real Madrid. So they have to work their arse off. They have to show the talent to get that move. And, look at Brighton. Moises Caicedo and Alexis McAllister didn't dream of playing for Brighton, but they came to Brighton and they were sold for 10x, 20x, whatever it was, and made Brighton a fortune. And now they're one of the most profitable clubs in the country. And that's where we want to get back to, Mark, having these youngsters or people from abroad that we can sell on. Of course, once in a blue moon, you might get one player that wants to stay. Jamie Vardy, it's once in a lifetime thing to be at that level, but it's not going to happen because there's a pecking order, there's a food chain, and we're not at the top of it. And we never will be.
Right. No, I totally agree. I don't think if they're coming from abroad, it really matters a jot, really, because again, and especially if they're coming from a small club, like training facilities. Once again, you walk somebody into Seagrave that maybe from what they've come from in another country, and it's like, geez, now I'm being given the tools, right, to develop and get to a place, and you got to accept as a Leicester fan. And I think, well, if you've got your head screwed on, you should know by now that we have a ceiling. The players are going to want to move on. If a player moves on for huge money, it more than likely means that they've done a great job for us. We've had some success out of them. Okay, let them go on. We start again, right? The cycle begins again. So, yeah, I agree. But just before you said that, I was just going to say, question to you guys and anyone calling in, blue tinted glasses off, but I know we're saying what we'd like and what we hope for Monga, but what do we think is really going to happen? Hand on heart. Now, I'll just start by quickly saying, I think that it's the minutes he's getting right now is going to go a long way to helping him stay. And if what Rudy's saying is that spoken to his parents, helping him with the GC, I know that was tongue in cheek, but we're planning out this pathway for him.
What's 7 times 5, Jeremy?
No, I wouldn't trust him with his helping him in with his homework. Yeah.
I go on, Doc. You take it first. What do you think is going to happen?
I think there is a realistic chance we keep him. I also think there's a realistic chance we lose him. I feel a bit 50-50 on it on the moment.
I think on the fence, Doc. Come on.
So much depends on the uncertainties, right? What happens with the manager position in the summer? What happens with the higher ups? Who will be in charge of negotiating a potential contract with him? Will it still be Rodkin, or will it be someone else? Who knows? I think that matters a lot, but I think
stick Vardy in there. Get Vardy in there.
Yeah, get Vardy in as director of football. Yeah. No, I think there's a realistic chance because getting first team football just proves to be so valuable for any youngster. And I think even basically regardless of what happens with the manager will at the very least make him a part of the squad who will get regular minutes. Maybe not starting over time week in, week out, but definitely getting your 30 minutes, starting the cup game, starting, maybe the league games if you're leading comfortably or whatever. He'll definitely play a part in the season and hopefully earn himself a winner's medal at the end of it. And then he can leave for 1 or 2 years when he'll go directly into a top 6 club's starting 11. But there is also the chance that, things fall apart, the whole team collapses in the summer and, the manager comes in, doesn't fancy youth or whatever, and he doesn't feel wanted. And then, if he doesn't feel wanted, I think he'll go to a Man City or whatever offers on the table, even if it is just U21's football and starting the first round of the EFL Cup every year.
Go on in there. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen to Minel? Because somebody put a good comment here. Do you see someone like Dyche playing it? I mean, the manager, whoever will be in charge of Leicester, that is a big factor as well, by the way.
I think so, because they have to play the youth. If not, that's one of my key criteria. They have to be willing to play the youth. If they're 15, 16 or 20, they have to try and play as many of our academy graduates.
And not the Steve Cooper youth playing, which never fucking happened.
Yeah. Look, to be fair, I think if a player is good enough, they will always play. Like, look, I've said before, Dyche would definitely not be my first pick, but I have heard him say that he goes, look, when I was in charge at Everton, the honest truth is that none of the young players were good enough. He did play Jared Branthwaite, who I think was like 23, 24. And how many have they produced since then? I mean, they sold us Tom Cannon. How good was he? He was okay. He wasn't like tearing up the place. So I think if Monga really is that good, and to be honest with you, as I say, I think the fact that he already, let's be honest, when he came on, he got our second highest match rating of all when we did the match ratings right now. Some of that is glazing, but I think even if you take the glazing out of it, he was really good. Right, he wasn't as good as Buonanotte, right? But I think he had an impact. And the thing is, if you can do that at 15 years old, and yeah, even though we always take the piss out of Andreas because everything's about FC Copenhagen, is right. Rooney Badaji, however you pronounce his name, that is a really good example. He is an FM Wonder kid, looked really good in Denmark, but you're looking at a similar level being done in the Premier League. That's extremely impressive. So I think he is going to stay. I think he will play next season. I actually think the bigger question will be at the end of next season, because at the end of next season, he still actually won't have signed the proper contract. I think he'll have signed there is like a contract when you're 16 that will kind of prepare you for 17, but it's not quite the same thing. And it's like, if he's literally one of the best players in the championship, or even just let's say he has a mid-season and he only plays 20 games, but he scores like 4 or 5 goals or something like that. I mean, there's going to be people swarming around him. So
yeah, I mean, they already are, right? Before he kicked a minute of Premier League
football. But I think he'll stay, and I think he will do one of those things where I think he might end up doing what happened with Jude Bellingham, to be honest with you. So Jude Bellingham did play for Birmingham City, played a few games with him. They were already saying that he's just like, this is ridiculous, that he was 16 as well, that a 16-year-old can be bossing the midfield at that age. And he sold to Dortmund at the end of the season for something like 20 to 25 million. And at the end of the day, everyone's a winner there. You know, they probably got a sell-on clause as well. So when he made the move to Madrid, I'm sure they got some more money cashed in there as well. And I think he ended up saving the club. I think it'd be a bit of a shame if we got promoted, but he left. So he might be doing the Dewsbury Hall 2.0, but I think he will stay for us next season, and I expect him to be good. I don't think he'll play every single game, but I think as the season goes on, he'll get stronger and stronger, and I expect him to make between 20 and 25 starts and maybe have 30 to 35 appearances all in, because I think he looks good already. Yeah,
I think that's the issue where sorry, Loss, I was just going to say, I think that's the issue as well. I'm pretty aligned with that, Anil, that I think and hope he'll stay deep down. My heart's ruling my head, but I think the issue is, or not necessarily an issue, if we don't go up next season, is he going to want another season in the Championship if the Premier team then come knocking, right? So if we go up, it'd be like, great, now I've done the Championship season, let's give it a shot, one more season in the Prem. So yeah, next season, the end of next season could be a bigger task to keep the Wolves away from the door.
I think we're going to get snaked regardless. I'm sorry, guys. I think he's going to stay for the season. I think he's going to stay next. No, not snaked by him. Snaked by one of the big clubs. I think he's going to stay. I think he's going to have, like Anil said, he's not going to set it alight, but I think he's going to have a good season. And then I think one of the big clubs come for him and they poach him, because at that age he'll still be 16 in a year's time. They'll be able to get him for this dodgy rule that we just spoke about, where you can get poached through a tribunal. And I think that's what's going to happen. There's no need for a Man City to rush in when they know that in a year's time they can still get him for peanuts. So I think they're going to hold back, watch on, enjoy it, and if he does well, they'll just pull the trigger. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope he signs. And as we said, I think the manager situation. I mean, what if he only wants to stay if Ruud's there? What if he really has a good relationship with Ruud? He might do. He might well have a really good relationship. His family might have a relationship with Ruud, and if Ruud goes, all of a sudden maybe he's like not so sure.
I mean,
no one's helping with his homework, will he?
Yeah, I mean, then I'll say I'm lucky I started the opening the door to Ruud in, because I would be saying that we would have kept Monga if I was in charge then for the rest of eternity. So I'll have that above you, and I'll make a many about it.
I don't think he's going to leave this summer. I saw enough from the TikTok live to know he's not leaving this summer. I'm convinced. Anyway, that is the end of the show. Let us know in the comment if you're watching this back later. By the way, let us know in the comments if you think he'll stay or not. Jeremy, if you're watching, stay. You will be a legend at this football club. Do not go anywhere. We all think that way. Stay.
You do.
Absolutely right. And of course, if you are new around here, Jeremy, if you watch, hit the like button, mate, hit subscribe. If you are new, make sure to do that. Anything
Good
else?
luck with the GCSEs.
Yes.
There we go.
That goes to Jake Evans as well, right? Isn't he also doing those? Or is
I think he's on A levels.
I don't know. I don't know the UK school system. I'm just saying words there when it comes to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Cheers. Thanks to you, Clibo. Thanks to everybody who's been in the chat. Thanks to Anil. Thanks to Doc. Thanks to Mark for his first time on. Hopefully, he'll be on more often as well.
Guys.
And enjoy the rest of your evenings. We'll see you, I don't know when, Friday probably. Take care. Bye.